Hello everyone, my name is Didi Andira, Umar STB, 5063, Study Program, Correctional Engineering, C. And in this presentation, I will discuss an organizational development case in correctional institutions. The topic I chose is overcrowding in prisons, which is one of the most critical and persistent issues in correctional systems today. In this presentation, I will not only explain the problem, but also analyze it using an diagnosis approach and propose a strategic solution based on an appropriate change model. Role. In this case, I position myself as the head of a correctional institution. This means that I am responsible not only for maintaining security and order, but also for ensuring that the organization runs effectively and efficiently. As a leader, I must be able to identify problems, analyze their root causes, and make strategic decisions that can improve the overall performance of the institution. This role requires a combination of leadership skills, analytical thinking, and a strong understanding of organizational systems. Organizational background. The organization analyzed in this case is a correctional institution, which plays an important role in the criminal justice system. However, in reality, many correctional institutions face serious challenges. One of the most prominent issues is overcapacity, where the number of inmates exceeds the available facilities. In addition, there are limitations in human resources, both in terms of quantity and quality, as well as a high potential for conflict among inmates. These conditions create a complex environment that affects the effectiveness of rehabilitation and security within the institution. Problem identification. The main problem identified in this case is overcrowding occurs when the number of inmates significantly exceeds the official capacity of the prison. This condition creates pressure on all aspects of the organization. As a result, supervision becomes less effective. Tensions among inmates increase, and the risk of violence or riots becomes higher. Furthermore, overcrowding also negatively impacts the physical and mental health of inmates, as well as the working conditions of correctional officers. Evidence and data. This problem is supported by various credible sources, including government reports, academic research, and news articles. Many prisons operate at 200 to 300% of their intended capacity, which clearly indicates a serious imbalance between the number of inmates and available resources. In several cases, overcrowding has been directly linked to incidents such as prison riots, escapes, and deteriorating living conditions. These facts highlight the urgency of addressing this issue in a systematic and strategic manner. Organizational diagnosis. To understand this problem more deeply, it is necessary to conduct an organizational diagnosis. Organizational diagnosis is a structured process used to analyze the condition of an organization and identify both the problems and their underlying causes. This approach is important because it allows leaders to move beyond surface-level symptoms and focus on the root of the problem, ensuring that any solutions implemented are effective and sustainable. Diagnosis model. In this analysis, I use the McKinsey 7S framework as the diagnosis model. This model is widely used because it provides a comprehensive view of an organization by examining 7 interconnected elements: strategy, structure. By analyzing each of these elements, we can identify which parts of the organization are functioning well and which ones need improvement. 7S analysis. Based on the analysis using the 7S framework, several issues were identified. The current strategy is not fully effective in addressing overcrowding, as it lacks long-term planning. The organizational structure is not balanced with the workload, resulting in the existing systems, including administrative and monitoring systems, are not optimized. In addition, the number of staff is insufficient compared to the number of inmates, and the skills of personnel are not evenly distributed. These findings indicate that the problem is deeply rooted in multiple aspects of the organization. Root cause analysis. The root cause analysis shows that the overcrowding problem is influenced by multiple factors. These include strict criminal policies that increase the number of inmates, a lack of prison facilities, limited human resources, and weak management systems. Therefore, this issue is not simply about capacity, but rather a systemic organizational problem. Diagnosis process. The diagnosis process in this case is carried out through several stages, starting from identifying the problem, followed by collecting relevant data, analyzing the data, and finally drawing conclusions. This structured approach ensures that the analysis is logical and reliable. Data collection methods. The data used in this analysis are obtained through several methods, including observation, interviews, literature review, and secondary data from official reports. These methods help ensure that the information used is accurate and credible. Good diagnosis characteristics. A good organizational diagnosis must be objective, systematic, and based on reliable data. It should also be valid and able to clearly explain the actual problems faced by the organization so that appropriate solutions can be developed. Change strategy. Based on the diagnosis, the key issues identified include limited staff and ineffective systems. These issues require a well-planned and structured change strategy to improve the organization's performance. Change model. To implement the change, I use Kurt Lewin's change model, which consists of 3 stages: unfreeze, change, and refreeze. This model is suitable because it provides a clear and practical framework for managing organizational change. It emphasizes the importance of preparation, implementation, and stabilization in the change process. Implementation in the unfreeze stage. The organization must build awareness about the existing problems and prepare for change. During the change stage, improvements are implemented, such as upgrading facilities. Finally, in the refreezed stage, the new practices are stabilized through standardization and regular evaluation. Expected outcomes. The expected outcomes of these changes include a reduction in overcrowding, improved security within the institution. Conclusion. In conclusion, overcrowding in correctional institutions is a complex issue that requires a comprehensive and systematic approach. Organizational development plays an important role in identifying problems and implementing effective solutions. Recommendations to address this issue. Several recommendations can be proposed, such as building additional facilities, implementing alternative sentencing approaches like restorative justice, increasing the number of staff, and developing digital management systems to improve efficiency. References. All the arguments and analysis presented in this presentation are supported by credible sources, including academic journals, government reports, and reputable news articles.
However, beyond these conclusions, it is important to translate these recommendations into practical and actionable steps. 1. Implementation plan. In terms of implementation, this change strategy can be carried out in several phases. In the short term, within the first 1 to 3 months, the institution should focus on internal assessment, strengthening communication, and conducting initial training for staff. This phase is crucial to build awareness and readiness for change. In the medium term, around 3 to 6 months, the organization can begin implementing policy adjustments, improving operational procedures, and strengthening supervision systems. Finally, in the long term, the institution should focus on sustaining the change by conducting continuous evaluation, reinforcing organizational culture, and ensuring consistency in leadership commitment. Collaboration between stakeholders, including officers, management, and external institutions, is also essential to ensure successful implementation. 2. Risk and challenges. However, it is important to acknowledge that implementing organizational change in correctional institutions is not without challenges. One major challenge is resistance to change among staff, especially if they are accustomed to existing systems and routines. Additionally, limited resources, including budget constraints and overcrowding conditions, may hinder the effectiveness of the proposed strategy. To address these challenges, it is important to adopt a participatory approach where staff are actively involved in the change process. Clear communication, leadership support, and continuous training can help reduce resistance and build commitment. Moreover, gradual implementation and prioritization of key actions can help manage resource limitations effectively. 3. Evaluation and expected impact. To ensure the success of this change strategy, continuous evaluation is necessary. The effectiveness of the implementation can be measured through several indicators such as improved staff performance, reduced incidents within the institution, and better rehabilitation outcomes for inmates. In the long run, this strategy is expected to create a more structured, adaptive, and professional organizational environment within the correctional institution. So, organizational change in correctional institutions is not only about improving performance, but also about creating a more humane and effective system for rehabilitation. With the right strategy, strong leadership, and collaborative effort, correctional institutions can transform into environments that truly support positive change.
Thank you for your attention. I hope this presentation provides a clear understanding of how organizational development can be applied to solve real problems in correctional institutions.